Okay, in lieu of the second half of class tonight, I wanted to make a video tutorial that went over how to work with scrolling here, page scrolling, and I'm going to make a separate one for mouse movement, how to employ these kind of ideas into your projects if you're interested in that. So what I have here, we'll start with a simple one and then a slightly more complicated one. It gets into some fun things we haven't had a chance to talk about just yet. So right here we just have a div. It's light blue. It's pretty big. It's 2000 by 2000. Here's the body of the web page. It's just this one big div, and it's called change colors. Here's where the JavaScript starts, and this you don't have to really worry about that so much, as we're using this term, this variable. It's a global variable. It's set to basically nothing at the start, and we'll see how we fill it with different colors later on. I want to introduce you to this window, which is part of the browser object model. So far we've been looking at the document object model. If you go back to some of the PowerPoints that from earlier in the semester, I have a bunch of information about the document object model. This is kind of like one step back in basically every part of the DOM is part of the BOM. I guess there's some kind of good saying in there somewhere. But basically what the window the browser object model does is it reports the status of window information from a browser. And that's going to be really helpful to us as we're thinking about, okay, where is that window? What's the location? If you can see way off in the corner here, the location information here, this is what's enabling us to make changes based on this information, and that's done through the browser object model. So the way to access that is just to put this word window, and then there's a set of properties here. There's a set of methods that you can use that are related to the window object. And so and I've put links to these. How do you find out what are all the different things that you can work with? You can see here's another one, on scroll. So these are the things that are enabling us to access the information about where we are on the page. Okay, so what we set up here, this is kind of like what they would call an event listener. There's events. It's like an event-driven function. And so what the event is that we're looking for is when that mouse scrolls, do this. And so anytime there's mouse movement, it's going to report to us what the Y offset, that's the vertical information, and that's the one we're really going to tune into. Right now the X offset, we're not going to really pay that much attention to. Okay, so what this is doing, check out how this is written, because this is really important. And this is how a lot of JavaScript works, and we'll look at a more advanced version of the same concept in the next part. So we have this window.page Y offset. The status of this, the information, the values for that are being put into this function and called. So on scroll, call this function check div color, which we made up this name. Okay. And I've got it right here. Here's this function called check div color. And this Y offset is the values slipping in straight from the browser into this function. Okay? So now wherever I use this term Y offset in this function, it's going to drop those numbers. So let's say if we're at 100 pixels that we've scrolled down here, and that's where I have this changing from from red to blue. I have this at like 300 pixels set here. And it's reporting that information. Let's just take a look at that right now. I'm going to put in here, let's do it like this, So it'll help us. We could put in a console.log, whenever you want to see what's happening within your program, you can put a console.log in, and let's put the Y offset information in here. Okay, and so what this is going to report is what's this number that we're receiving. Okay, so whoops, I meant to hit save here, and now I'm going to refresh here, and I'm going to also Command Option K this, and so now you can see, oh, that's hilarious. So I got to put Y offset there. Okay, so let's, if you ever want a space in here, just put a space there, and I'll save, refresh, and now you can see, so I'm at the Y location of 236. Okay, so it's reporting to us the Y location. It should continue to go, okay, that's because we are going in and out of, check this out, if the Y, so what I've done here, so that's how it's reporting to us the information into the console. So look what I'm doing here though. I have this conditional statement. Remember we met these very early on when we were talking about JavaScript. And it says if this number here from the browser is greater than 100 and the Y offset let's see, is less than 300, okay? So if it's basically, if this number is between 100 and 300, and the current color is not already this color, then do these things. Then make the current color this RGB, basically that's super red, and then we're just plunking that set div color into the red here, is this red color. So that's just slipping right in there. Okay, now we have another kind of, and you can stack as many of these down to the 2000 pixels where it says, and you can change that 2000 pixels to 10,000 pixels, whatever you want to do. So here's another conditional statement. If this is over 300 and it's under 500, do something else. You could put text in here. You could have a video play. You could have a GIF fade up and fade out using your jQuery stuff that we talked about. So we're just setting up conditions to be, if certain conditions are met, then do something, and it's all being generated from this value here. And if we want to just, this is the one to look at. If we want to, I'm going to get rid of this guy, and then go back here. We'll refresh, and then let's bring this over so we can see that. On the mouse scroll, let's see. Looks like it doesn't want to. There must be some reason for that. Anyhow, I don't want to distract us with that stuff. So let's shift over now to this other example here, and this adds another kind of interesting component to us. So basically, on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this. Basically, it's the same kind of setup coding-wise as the other one, except we are not working with a div anymore. I just ripped the div out, and we're just going to be working with the body and text. And so let's refresh this. And so if I move my mouse here, it'll start to add and change the text. And I'm just moving my mouse down. And this is just more an example of to show you how to do this. But I also want you to see as I continue down, this one's 10,000. Look at and see how the color is changing based on my location in the browser. And I'm going to show you how that's being done here as well. Okay, so let's take a look at that code. And I'll give you both of these files when I send this out to you. So here, this is just the information about the H1. We have the body tag here. The height of that is 10,000 pixels. Z-index for the text is 2, so it's on top of anything else that would come up. Let's see, we're using the king of all fonts for your memes, the impact font. Okay, so but inside here, inside the body of the page, there's very little. There's just one H1 tag, and it's called the ID is text. Okay, and now here's our JavaScript starting. what I want you to see is we have the same kind of thing where we started, which is the window.onScroll. Here's our function. And this is really, once again, we're going to really mostly be focusing just on the Y offset. Okay, so it's saying trigger this function. When any kind of scrolling happens, trigger that function. And here's the function here, change color. Okay, and this information, once again, slides into this area here by having that named argument. This information from the onScroll gets put right into here. Okay, and now this is what we're doing. We're now here's some new stuff, and this is something that Craig had asked for a while back, and I've been meaning to show you something like this. And this is a very kind of common use of how people use JavaScript to do like a serious calculation super quickly. So we're taking the data coming in of the location of where we are within our web browser. Oh, we're like 500 pixels down, let's say right now. So 500 comes into this function, and we're naming, we're creating a variable called color, C-O-L, for this 500. And then we're just saying we're going to use a function within this function that's called map range. And this is one of those ones that I'll give you that's a great one to have in your kind of toolkit of go-to functions than your reusable code file. So what I'm doing here is I'm sending, just like this is a function and we're sending one value into this one, here this is a function and we're sending 5 values into this one. Okay, and what I want to do here, this is the thing that's enabling us to take the mouse movement, how far we are going up and down, scrolling between 0 and 10,000, and applying that to a pixel range. So we're taking the location of the Y offset between 0 and 10,000, the length of how far we are down here. Now we're down at 10,000, now we're back up at 0. We're taking that figure, and this is that value, okay, whatever this is, 500, 2,000, 5,000. And what this map range is going to do is say convert this range to this range. And as you all remember from last semester, 0 to 255 is the pixel range that the RGB comes in. So we're just converting this kind of browser range to pixel range with this map range. And let me just kind of show you where that is down here. So way down here I have this function called map range, and you can see how it's taking each one of those 5, it's expecting 5 variables, the current value 500, let's just say, the low and high of where it's coming from, and the low and high of where you want it to go to. And then it does all this fancy math you don't even really have to care about. I mean, it's cool to know. This is an important kind of function, and it's saying return this calculation to wherever this was called. Okay, so whenever the mouse moves, it's making this kind of super complicated calculation and spitting it back into this function that we have up here. So that's giving us a number that's in the range between 0 and 255, and then I'm just plunking that number. It has to be an integer, so I'm converting it, putting that math floor trick right onto this. And so now we have a variable C that is a variable that's changing based on our location of where we are with the browser. And I'm making that right now just change the color. And then just like we learned a month ago or so, I'm using the CSS here and putting our current color information into that, just like we did in this last example. Okay, so that's the kind of new trick that's happening there that I think you guys would be interested in. But the bigger thing, you can use this to change, to map the range. This is something you use all the time for music. Let's say you could take something from you know, a color range in 0 to 255 pixels and convert it to a musical range of 100 to 1,000 hertz, let's say. And you'd use that exact same formula. Okay, couple little variations. Here we're getting the Y offset information and it's coming in, and it's a much simpler conditional statement that I've set up here. If the Y offset is between these two figures, and you can totally, customize this if you're interested in these kind of things. Customize this, and you can kind of play with it, and that's how you kind of get to learn this. I feel like this is maybe the text here is a little too high. I'd like that to maybe be a little bit lower, and you can kind of make those kind of tweaks there. And you can just see I was just threw any kind of crazy text in here, and you could keep going. I've only done it to 800 pixels. There's a whole nother thousands of pixels for you to kind of play with. But that's the basic idea of how to use the information of the scrolling mouse, the page scroll, and how you can employ it into your designs.